right, welcome to the Crazy Beats Big podcast. I'm going to jump right into it and dispense with the introductions of what this is. If you've been following along, you probably know. I'm sitting down with Connor T. Dwyer and Rachel F. Long. Is that how you guys say it, or am I being way too
You are
proper?
That's how I introduce myself
every
day.
Okay.
Both of us.
So we just met yesterday, which is pretty fun because I actually don't know you guys very well. But you've been coming into our coffee shop a lot, and a lot of people here know you and say you're great. So I was like, I'm going to meet this person. And then you just came up and surprised her.
Yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit about who you are, who you guys are. Tell me about your backstory. Maybe just tell me who you are and what you do. I don't care who goes first.
You go first, Rach.
Okay. Well, I've only lived in Michigan for a year, and I am a photographer. I do freelance photography. I'm moving to Nashville to pursue more photography and work with Connor more. We're dating.
We met on Instagram.
We did.
Which is a
5
great place
years
to
ago.
meet.
Yeah.
5 years ago. I followed her. Kind of crept on her for about 5 years, and then when I met her, it was like, all right,
Yeah.
it's go time. Well, do you want to keep going?
Mm-mm.
I am also a photographer, and I live in Nashville. I surprised Rachel yesterday coming up here, and I moved to Nashville a year ago from Atlanta, and before that was finishing up my master's in graphic design at SCAD.
What's SCAD?
It's Savannah College of Art and Design. So it's a...
Is that where Walker went? Do you guys know? Walker? She works at Rhino. She went down
Belmont.
to school there. Belmont?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you
Went
know
to Belmont.
Walker. Okay, cool. Sorry.
Yeah,
Keep going.
Belmont, SCAD. Pretty similar.
Okay.
Belmont's in Nashville, though.
Okay.
And I mean, I work with musicians mainly now in Nashville, doing branding and like album artwork, design, photography,
Nice.
kind of all that in the music world. And Rachel and I have been able to do some shoots together with some of our favorite bands, and and we're kind of bringing that together. But then we both also have been pursuing photography and all that on our own before that. So
Nice. So I think the thing I want to talk about with you guys is particularly interests me. I'll tell you right out why I want to talk to you, because we met yesterday and it was like this 5-minute interaction, and I had become aware of you through her Instagram, and I was like, wow, this guy's got a pretty decent sized following, really cool looking Instagram feed.
thank you.
You're welcome. My assumption, a lot of times when I see somebody with a ton of pictures on Instagram that's really curated, and it's not a wrong, I'll say it like this. I don't mean it to be like a mean thing or a rude thing, but I go, a lot of times people that are really good on Instagram are not good at real life communication. And I found you to be a very nice real life communicator. I was like, this guy's really cool.
Thank you.
And but sometimes there's like this thing that's emerging in our society where like you're good at online, but you're not good at this.
Yeah.
And you were immediately likable and just a nice guy. And I was like, that's cool. So I found that interesting.
Yeah.
I was curious if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think I see where you're coming from with that. Like, I've definitely had those interactions where you see someone online, you're like, this person is the most amazing person, and then when you meet them in person, it's like, this is a completely different person. And
Right.
I mean, they might still be amazing, but you can totally like curate your persona online.
Yeah.
For me, what I love to do is just let my online presence be an extension of who I am. So if I make terrible dad jokes in person, I'm going to make terrible dad jokes in my captions on Instagram. And then if people like them, they like them. If they don't, they don't. Yeah. And I'm a pretty joyful person. And so I try to just be joyful on my Instagram, and it's been really fun. I really haven't done a ton of my professional work. I haven't posted it on my Instagram as much. It's more of a personal thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of been the ticker for me on Instagram. And I know Rachel's kind of the same way, that like posting personal work has been what has brought professional work in. Years ago, I started a challenge. I did a 1-a-day photo challenge for a year.
It's an awesome challenge for any young photographer to just get into it.
Yeah. I had just gotten an iPhone and was like, I mean, I did not call myself a photographer or anything, but I was just really enjoying the taking pictures of things. And someone told me about Instagram. I was like, this is just the weirdest thing, taking pictures of your food and posting it. I was like, well, no, I'm going to try and do one photo a day. And so I did that. And after about half a year of doing that, what I would do, I would like pray before I would take a picture. Yeah. And then it was kind of like
God lead me to the correct photo.
Well, I was learning a lot about like, I had just started following Jesus, and I was learning a lot about like worship.
Sure.
And that like worship doesn't necessarily have to be music, but it can be just like everyday life and like what we do. And so
that's cool.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna let this photo challenge be an act of worship for me. And so I did that for a year, and about half a year in was when I really started developing like a style, and people started calling me a photographer, and then Instagram made me a suggested user, which is basically the Instagram's like, go follow this person.
Yeah.
And how
many followers did you have at that point?
I had
when they did that.
I had 700 followers. And all right, this is a crazy story, but I try to not be like too like pushy with my faith, but it's really important to me. And
hey, don't be pushy with your faith, but stay close to the mic.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, there we go. There you go. Yeah, it's really important to me, and so every like 10th post, I would just post about Jesus and my relationship with Him and all that. And one day I was just like, God, would you just let this post, what I'm about to post, reach a ton of people? I don't care if I ever see who it reaches or whatever, but yeah, would you just like let that happen? I wake up the next morning after falling asleep after posting it, and my phone's dead. I was like, what the heck? And I turn it back on, and I have 5,000 followers. I went from 800 followers to 5,000 like overnight. And it was that night that I was made the suggested user. So from there, I just like, it was like a 2-week span that I was a suggested user. I gained like 20,000 followers.
Wow.
And honestly, at the time, I look back at my photography and it was interesting. It was not like well executed, but it was just kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
But then since then, it's just kind of been like story after story of like kind of crazy opportunities. Like when the Pope came for the first time to the United States, I got to photograph him, and
oh, really?
My photos ended up on CNN, and it was like just so crazy.
Yeah.
And
were you with Brandon?
Yeah, I was with Brandon Harvey.
Okay.
Yeah, with him and Jeremy Cowart.
Okay.
And we got to do that.
Very cool.
But I won a hashtag contest, and they like flew me up there for that. And then I didn't know it was with Brandon.
Oh, okay.
And when we both knew each other from a previous trip that we had gone on.
Okay.
And we both showed up in Philadelphia. I was like, dude, what? This is awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So really quick, I want to ask you this question, because this is something I actually have a hard time gauging once in a while, is as a person who runs a media company, and a lot of times it tries to pull in people on projects, what I have a hard time knowing, and I like what you said about putting out your personal work to get professional work. So what I always wonder, though, is when I see someone whose feed looks a certain way, and I'd say yours has a very intentional layout. There's like a really consistent pattern going on, and I like it a lot. But what I have a hard time knowing is, okay, so is this your style in such that, like, if I hired you to do something, you'd go, I kind of want it to look like this, and it'd look like your Instagram feed, or is that, and I know everybody's different, but like if someone wants to hire you, what's your creative process to get from, hey, we want to do a photo shoot, to here's the thing we're making?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, that's such a good question.
We're going to talk to you too, Rachel. Don't worry. It's not all about comedy. That's actually a question I've been asking myself, because most of the work that I get through Instagram
because people are looking at this really intentionally curated, most of the work is really minimal and bright and like colorful. Most of the clients that I get through that want that same aesthetic.
Sure.
Naturally.
It's what they know.
Yeah, it's what they know. But I also am like, I'm able to do all of these other things. And as an artist, I'm like, well, like when someone comes to the table, I'm like, I could do anything for you. And what I've seen in Nashville is I'm getting work through references as opposed to through my Instagram. Just like word of mouth, being in a creative city that someone needs a graphic designer. They're like, oh, this guy, he did this for this and that. A lot of my work that hasn't been through Instagram, my creative process is more of and this kind of leads into why I moved to Nashville and what I like. The reason I'm doing what I'm doing is getting to know the artists that I'm working with and getting to inspire them and help them let their dreams come to fruition. And so my creative process starts with, hey, let's sit down and have coffee or have a beer, and I just want to know about you. I want to hear your thoughts, your heart, everything, and then from there we're going to pick an aesthetic. We're going to move, do a photo shoot, graphic design, and do something that encapsulates who you are as a person. So the creative process for my musician clients has kind of morphed into getting to know people and getting to know their heart, and then from there creating. But then with my Instagram, because I've been so consistent with that is more of, and like anytime I get a client through there, I just get to do what I think is really fun.
Yeah.
And that's typically bright colors and weird puns. And I like Callaway, a golf brand, reached out to me and wanted me to make some photos for them. And I said, what if I super glued 3 golf balls to each other and made it look like I balanced them perfectly on top of a wedge? And I literally just took a picture of that on like a seamless backdrop. But it ended up looking really cool. And,
nice.
And it was just goofy. And I was creating that for a golf company. And
that's a huge brand. Yeah, for sure. That's cool. So
does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, like what I try to understand is, I think a lot of creative people, this is where I would say, and some people don't actually like the phrase creative, but when I talked to you yesterday, you said I'm a designer. I said I do a lot of graphic design, but you also do photography. Mm-hmm. And really, I think the through line of all of it is you're taking ideas and converting them into something somewhat tangible or digital.
Yeah.
And people who are photographers, like a tried and true photographer, may not align themselves so much with creativity in lots of realms. They're like, I'm a photographer. I want to get really good in that one lane, where you're maybe like dabbling in lots of things that you're kind of good at, all of it, or not all of it, sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that, but you're dabbling in a few different things. I would definitely agree. And it's more it's just like you like bringing ideas to life, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel the same. I'm kind of similar. But like it might be in like, let's do a podcast.
Yeah.
Let's make a coffee shop.
Yep.
Let's do this video this way or what, so.
Cause as opposed to like bringing, like, this is my medium, this is how I'm going to do everything. Like if I'm only a photographer, like we were talking about that yesterday. We love what you guys are doing here with Rhino, and instead of thinking, okay, how can we use photography to bring this to Nashville? It's basically, what does Nashville need, and what can we do to bring that to the table? And we were coming up with, what if we created a scavenger hunt that Rachel had some pretty crazy ideas, and instead of us applying, like, okay, as photographers, how do we do this? It's like, no, what are, like, as creatives, what are some ideas that might be more effective than doing a monthly photo shoot for people downtown or whatever. Yep. Like that could be really cool, but there might be even something better. Like if Nashville needs, I think Nashville needs connection, community, like people to feel a part of a family. How do we do that? Do we use photography? Do we use graphic design, or do we hand out hot dogs at a park? Like,
Yeah, no, I like that. As much human interaction, I think, as possible. That was one of the things with Civil House for me is and honestly, this podcast is, before that was open, before you could walk in, we used to sit here and watch people walk by and just go like, man, I wish that it kind of sucks that we're always here doing this and off in a studio somewhere or going to a client who's paying us a lot of money, and we're thankful for that. But I kind of just want to connect with that guy, you know? And it's like, how could we? So the coffee shop allows us to have a physical human interaction that, frankly, wasn't really a thing before. So
man, it's so cool.
Rachel, talk to me about your photography. You have really beautiful work, and I want to know.
Thank you.
Give me the quick rundown of your, like, how you became a photographer.
Yeah.
And how you got it, and what type of work do you like to do?
Yeah, well, I started photography. Well, I actually had a dream when I was 8 years old of being a photographer, and I had a camera and a heart, and that was the dream. And then I had it again when I was 12 years old.
Like a little cute red heart or a beating bloody heart?
Bloody heart, like the gory hand.
That's really weird.
As an 8-year-old,
It was a cute dream until you said that.
No, but I forgot about those dreams, and then my dad actually brought it up to me when I was in high school and was like, "You used to have these dreams."
Was it really a beating heart?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In my
Sorry,
dreams, yeah.
Sorry.
But I never liked photography ever until I brought it up when I was like 17 to a friend, and she's like, "Wait, you should pursue that, whatever." And so 25 people raised money and surprised me on my birthday and bought me 3 lenses and a camera. And so
nice.
And they all wrote me letters and were like, "Hey, you should really pursue this. We believe in you," whatever. And so
Whatever.
So yeah, and then eventually I was able to get a nicer camera down the line, and but with that dream, like, I think as a young girl, I think it just meant like I love connecting with someone's heart, and I love, like, I was telling Connor, I was like, I love when I'm on a photo shoot with someone because they're stuck with me for 2 hours, and like we're gonna like I just love like pursuing them and like hearing their dreams and their passions and drawing out things that normally they just think they're like coming to a photo shoot, not to like freak people out, but I'm not super intense about it. But anyway, so that's how I started photography.
I want to jump in.
Yeah.
So one thing you said really is powerful. I just want to say and like point out and hold up the power of a supportive community. The 25 people that chipped in money and got you a start and believed in you. I don't know what's more powerful, the actual gift of giving you the stuff or the belief in you. But I think that's super huge. And if I can say, like, anyone listening, that how critical that is to, one, your own journey and path and having people that believe in you, but also once you've become that person, believing in other people and encouraging them and finding, looking for those opportunities to give someone else something that you think, I think it's really empowering for people when someone that they look up to and respect says, like, I see you and I think you're talented and I want you to succeed. Here's
absolutely,
whatever. So that's really cool. And then the other thing is, both of you guys are talking about something I think I'm very much in alignment with too. I don't think I'm particularly, I actually don't really shoot photos very often anymore. I'm a little bit more all over the place. But like for the first few years of Rhino's existence, I was a photographer. And I always knew from the get-go that it was way more about the person and they're managing or like connecting with their feelings and like getting to know them really well. The photos take care of themselves kind of thing, like connect with the person.
If there's that connection.
And you guys both have that. It's really obvious.
Oh, man.
So,
well, I just want to brag on Rachel real quick.
Please do. Yeah, you can tell she doesn't want to.
Yeah. So like, I mean, and I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Great.
Like every time Rachel does a photo shoot and when she finishes, what the clients say, they're always, speaking to the mic, her clients always say, I felt so relaxed. I felt so peaceful. I felt so known. And that was so much more fun than I ever thought a photo shoot could be. And I think that heart, even the dream that you had about the heart, like the way that you connect with people, the reason you had 25 people buy you a camera was because of you're being genuine with who you are. And then you're bringing that genuineness into your photography.
Thanks.
That's good. Thank you for bragging on it.
Yeah.
So I want to probably pick up my question pace a little bit.
That's great.
So what I really like about talking to you guys is that you're both artistic, and like you said, you pursue vision and passion necessarily over business. Why do you think that's important to you? Yeah. Talk to me about that.
Well, especially in an industry like music, where everyone that you're working with is so closely tied to the work that they're doing. Every musician I work with could tell me could give me a 20-minute talk on each of their songs, why it's so important to them, why why it makes them feel this way and everything. And so if I'm approaching them with a strict like business mentality of, okay, this is what we need to do, blah, 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 it's going to turn them off. And I didn't like come to Nashville thinking, okay, I need to like weasel my way in by like connecting. But I found that when I
weasel my way,
in, when I get in business mode, when I'm like, okay, this is what we need to do. And I start like, honestly, when I worked at a branding agency before this, and I learned a lot of amazing processes to get to a final solution. But I've kind of had to throw a lot of those processes out of the window because with musicians, it's made them uncomfortable. And when I'm interacting with
like we don't want to deal with that big agency process. We just want to talk.
Yeah, we just want to talk. And so with the vision, my vision is to help people pursue their dreams and visually let it come to life. And it's to encourage people and make people feel loved and believe in themselves. And that's why people recommend, like when I get done creating album artwork and, we create, we do a photo shoot and everything, people feel so empowered by the work that we do, as opposed to like, okay, I got that done. That would like check that off the list. It was like, whoa, I felt so known. I felt like this guy is trustworthy. And I didn't like set out to like make myself feel trustworthy. It was just like genuine. I just want to connect with people. So having vision of like making people feel known has allowed my business to thrive. And I am constantly having to remind myself, hey, you're here not to make money. You're here to love people and to create amazing artwork that's going to help their careers and to help them. And from there, I get paid. But it's not it's never about money for me. And I think people can tell very quickly when it's about when you're just trying to get money.
Absolutely.
And I landed a gig the first week I was in Nashville, which is just such a blessing. I landed a gig working with Sam Hunt, who's a really big country artist in Nashville, and I was sitting in the meeting, and I just felt like I didn't need to talk about money at all. All I needed to talk about was just, what's going on with the music and what's the vibe? What have you guys been up to? Just kind of chatting and it created this atmosphere that was like a friendship with the manager, as opposed to like I'm a potential client and blah blah blah. And by the end of that meeting, it was like I had a friend as opposed to
Yeah.
this is like a transaction.
You built trust.
Yeah, just like building trust, because I don't have an agenda except just to be a blessing.
That's awesome. I actually, like a thing that I put out I think I wrote like a blog on Medium about this, but it was called "Why You Should Let Your Photographer Drink at Your Wedding." And it essentially is,
It's awesome.
you know, because you probably been to a wedding maybe once or twice where you're kind of treated more like a vendor than a friend, and I always am very opposed to those situations, and they kind of relegate you. Been to the wedding where like they don't have a table for you, they stick you out back with a box lunch, and people give you really weird looks if you have a drink at the wedding, and I'm like, my premise is that like, look, if I'm having a drink with you, it means we're friends. It means we're communing together. And if you want me to just shut up and stand over there and take pictures, the pictures will not be as good because I won't be embraced in your community. So I think kind of what you're saying, it's the same premise. It's just like, don't look at me as a vendor. I want to know you as a friend and as a human being first. And then good things will come from that. And I think what's cool is that the longer I've been in business, I realized that what we're talking about probably was really hard to pull off a decade ago. You know, it just things were a little bit different. Business climate was different. Social media didn't exist. You didn't have the opportunity there weren't nearly as many people to know. And I really think like as we move forward in this current era of how we do business and connect with people on social media and stuff, trust becomes even more important, I think. It's always been the thing. It's always been the most important thing, but I think it's getting even more critical to relationship because there's so much out there that we don't trust. We're very distrustful of anyone online, you know?
Yep.
But you still see them, so it's a weird time. It's an interesting time.
And I think that's something that, like, getting back to doing personal work, I don't want to like completely derail us, but getting back to doing personal work, like, I think that's why it's so important to not, like, right now with social media, to not only be pushing your professional work, because it feels not genuine and it feels kind of promote-y.
Yeah.
And so like creating that space and creating that time to do work that you love, and it's like I made this just to make this. And
I'm going to jump in. So if someone, like, I think this is actually interesting because someone that's listening and they're thinking, I want to grow my Instagram base or whatever. Besides being real and showing your personal work, what are a couple other quick tips you'd give them if you could? Just
here's
what I'd tell somebody.
The first thing that I would say is be consistent.
Okay. With the type of thing you're posting or the daily amounts, or how do you mean that?
I would say both. The amount that you're posting, the time, even the time that you post. Like if it's every other day, post every other day and consistently do that, or post on your story every day. But then the content as well, just because I mean it's basically you're creating like a mini brand, because when people look at your photos or your story or whatever, you like, if you want people to follow you that don't know you already, that like a random person stumbles across your Instagram, why would they follow you if it was just like kind of scattered content? They wouldn't be like, oh,
they don't know what to expect.
Yeah, they don't know what to expect. But I actually did a little test of this like a couple years back. I wanted to see what if I could, like, if I did something consistently and I had like a consistent content, what would happen on Instagram. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but I like drew a face on my finger. This sounds like the most ridiculous thing ever. But I drew a face on my finger and named him Thad. And I took a photo twice a week and posted it for like, I did that for about a year.
Did you ever go into a meeting with a little face on your finger and they're like, what the heck?
I would always wipe it off because I kept it secret. even my roommates didn't know. So
Oh, really?
it was
No one knew it was you?
my mom and my little brother.
Okay.
I was like, guys, I'm going to do this and we'll see what happens. And yeah, so I'd always wipe his face off. But
Did
after
you feel a little sad every time you wiped his face off?
it was, I knew I got the photo, so I knew I would be able to keep it. But yes, it was sad. And then, but being consistent, having consistent content, and then posting twice a week, it eventually Thad the Finger at Thad the Finger on Instagram. If you're interested in checking it out, it's prepare yourself. But it blew up, and it has like 30,000 followers now, and it's just a finger.
Do you still do it? You still doing it?
It was kind of a test. So I've been slacking with Thad because I was like, I just want to see it. It was just kind of for fun, but I should probably get back.
Yeah, Thad needs to come back. Maybe with a sister. Maybe with me now. Maybe it's a couple thing.
Yeah.
Have a little story
do
and
it.
arc. Maybe that, dude. Maybe you. Okay, so your goal should be to get people so like into Thad that you kill him off and make people really sad about it, and then see how much.
Yeah.
like,
That's the strategy. That's my heart.
a good
Thad
one.
dies.
Thad dies.
Sorry.
Thad gets sick. It's terrible.
So, I have a couple quick questions I want to ask you guys before we wrap up. So, start with Rachel because you haven't said a whole lot.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about when I connect with someone. I want to know, I'm like you guys. I want to know their heart. I want to know where they want to go, what their core like fundamental beliefs are, and things like that. But a question I've kind of gotten used to asking people is, what do you want to be known for? Like, what do you want people to say about you when you're not around or when you're gone? Or
Yeah.
I know it's a big question to just throw at you, but
No,
I just
it's
did it. So
That's great. I think kind of what Connor and I have been saying, but I just want people to feel like their freest self, I think, with me. And I want to be known by that. And so whether that's with work or just in life in general, just that I'm a place of relief and safe. And I think we've actually felt that a lot in our work when we get to work together. And just musicians or whoever just feeling like we'll come to the end of a shoot and we just recently had someone say that was the most peaceful thing we've ever, and like the photos were rad. Like it was just like cool. Like it doesn't have to be super, I don't know, like it was just like so cool. And so I think in all the work I do, I think that's like my biggest thing is just a place of freedom.
what would you do if you weren't doing photography?
Well, I love starting things. So eventually I'd love to start many small businesses. But yeah.
Pick a couple of them. What do you think? I'm not letting you cop out on I just want to do businesses. You tell me. I
Yeah.
want to know what else you'd do.
Well, okay, if I wasn't doing photography, a lot of them deal with photography.
Sure. I'm saying alternate reality, even if it was like photography just wasn't an option. I don't know why, but pretend it's not.
What are some things I've talked about?
You can send me an email with this thought if you haven't. Maybe you're like, I have no other like desire to other than photography.
Yeah.
I get that, but
I think I would have an agency of some sort. I kind of want to be a boss. Meaning, that sounds really like, I don't know. But like I would love to like run a culture of people. And so I don't know what realm that would be in, like if it wasn't photography, but just a place where I could provide abundance for people to like thrive in and learn in, whether that would be equipment or something, or if it was clothing, I don't know, just anything.
I like that.
Just a place where people know that it's like safe, that they will excel and it will be excellent work. So I don't know, like a community that would.
You want to run Rhino? Sounds like, I don't know. I'm just joking. You want to run Rhino Nashville?
Yeah. Actually, we've talked about it. We've talked about what it could look like to build our own thing, but just a place where people are like, I think something we really sense over Nashville, sometimes not in like a rude way or I don't know, but a lot of like striving and a lot of people just like doing the grind. And I'm like, I don't want to do the grind. That's not why I'm here. Like I want to come, and I want, that's what we were talking about, like starting events and like things just to like knock that down. Like Kalamazoo is amazing, and so many things are starting here, but Nashville has that already. And so Nashville needs a place that can feel small, like Kalamazoo. I feel like, and so we're like, how do we break down you walk into a coffee shop and can't be greeted, or you feel a little funny being greeted there because they're famous or they're this or that. And so we've just been talking about like, how do we create a culture naturally that we walk in that is just free and, I don't know, bring something. Yeah. So, and not saying there's not that in Nashville.
No, I get that. That's what we try to do with Civil House. I said, I love the quality standards that like hipsters bring to the table. And I love like what that aesthetic is going to look like, but leave the smugness at the door, treat people with kindness, no matter who they are. And I don't see why that could ever not do well, you know, because I think at the core of all that is just an insecurity, and people, when they're insecure, comes out in different ways. Sometimes it's arrogance, sometimes it's pride, or, you know, whatever. Yeah. So I think I get what you're saying. We don't have any famous people in Kalamazoo though, so that's not a problem.
Yeah. No, but I think just like Connor and I have like decided we don't ask people what they do in Nashville. And we just will figure out a random question to ask them. And it's been funny. Like seriously, all of our waiters or waitresses will end up sitting with us and bring us a free dessert or a beer or like something, just because they're like, oh, you care more about like
who I am. Yeah.
And so it's been kind of just fun to be like, tell us about, I don't know, something just so random. And so I think ultimately that's that. Back to your question. I think that's what, just a place where it's like, there's no expectation coming from me.
Yeah. So that's killer. What about you? What do you want to be known for?
What do I want to be known for? I think I would love to be known for bringing joy. And then also that I help people pursue their dreams. And if that looks like working with musicians, or if that looks like having a younger photographer, you know, the other day I had a phone call from a young photographer who just wanted to learn, and I was like, oh, I'll take 20 minutes and talk to you about, you know, he was asking me what kind of lenses I use and you know, how did I get started, and just like giving with my time and my energy and my resources. And if that turns into business, that's great. If it's meeting up for coffee and you know, nothing like professional comes of that, like that's the legacy I would love to leave.
I always think of it as I early on realized in starting this business that I don't like the culture of back scratching that can accompany business sometimes, where you give but there's an expectation of being something in return maybe down the road. And it's like, I always say that I got in the habit of saying like, look, you don't owe me anything. We're not doing any sort of transaction here. We're good. Let me do this thing for you. And I think that'll serve anyone well that's getting into a creative field or any sort of small business. Obviously, if you're calling yourself a business, there is a transaction that has to be made at some point. Otherwise, it's not really a business. But you've got to just give first. And as you said, the money follows, right? If you've earned the trust, there is a component of, well, we need to work out the details here. But that doesn't mean you walk in every situation thinking, what can I get? Mm-hmm. It's like, what can I give?
Yeah, what do I bring to the table?
Yeah.
And people feel that. And they're talking with you for a reason. Like if you're talking about design or whatever, like it'll get there, but the connection needs to happen first. And
yep, that's cool. You guys are awesome. So a couple other quick questions. What was your worst job? What's the worst job you've ever had? You can be nice about it. I know you're a nice guy and you're joyful, but
Man,
No, I didn't mean that. You're a joyful guy, but tell me your worst job.
This isn't even that terrible of a job. I was a lifeguard, and it was at this tiny little pool. And I think it was my worst job because I was terrible at being a lifeguard.
Did people die on your watch?
No one died.
Okay.
I just ate slushies the whole time, and I threw splash bombs at kids. I was kind of
You were a jerk.
yeah, I was a jerk. So I was the jerk lifeguard that just made myself slushies. That was my worst job because I was terrible.
Thank you for your honesty. How old were you? Was that like this last summer, or was that like you were 15?
It was last summer. No, yeah, it was high school.
Okay, fair enough. What about you, Rachel?
I'm trying to think. I worked at an ice cream stand across a beach one time, and my boss was 85 years old, and it was awful. He couldn't hear me ever, and he just yelled at me constantly.
No one likes being yelled at.
I think it was the worst job I've had, and it was like 90 degrees, and you're stuck in a little shelter where you're making ice cream that melts as you hand it out, and you're just disgusting the whole summer, and then you come home sticky. And
Did you have to deal with hot dogs in that too? Like any sort of meat product back
but
there?
I was the root beer maker, so I had syrup on me all the time, and cheese curds, fried cheese curds.
Because you're from Wisconsin, right?
I am from Wisconsin.
Right on.
Yeah.
And you're originally from where?
I grew up in Louisiana. Yeah.
Nice. So where's your Louisiana accent?
I don't have one.
Okay.
My parents are from New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
And
But they don't have an accent either. So.
yeah, so there's like a regionally neutral thing that happened like between Jersey and Louisiana. I landed somewhere in like Kentucky, maybe North Kentucky, to where I don't have a southern accent.
Right on. So, last thing, what motivates you guys to do your best work? Like I don't know if you're like me, but once in a while I just don't want to get up out of bed in the morning. I'm just tired and I'm like exhausted. I don't have any creative energy. Where do you draw motivation from? And we could go spiritual on this, or we just like, what inspires you to keep going if you're not feeling the motivation, or where do you get that?
I think I feel that a lot lately, I think. And
It's the winter. It's the weather. It's the weather.
The clouds.
Yeah.
I think one thing I heard one time is like when you are forgetting, or when you're just like in a blah time or whatever, is you can always remember. And so I've been thinking about that a lot. And I'm like, oh, I remember when I was excited, and I remember when I did have dreams, and I remember. And so I think, honestly, lately that might sound cheesy, but it's honestly what I've been doing is like, okay, I remember I used to be so passionate and I'm not. And I'm just like, I was talking to Connor, I was like, I'm not joyful lately. Like I just like don't want to do anything. Yes, part of it's weather, but just remembering like my passion. And so I think from there, getting inspired. How do you get inspired? Figuring that out. And for me, sometimes it's going for a run and just like praying, or even looking at like design inspiration or whatever. And then I'm like, I have 18,000 ideas. And then I get stressed out because I can't land on one idea and then whatever. And so I think, yeah. Or lately it's just like, okay, I have these huge goals in photography that I'm far from. And Connor's like, stop. Like you have to take a step. Like you can't just be that, like you have to take the steps to it. And so buying a new light, or like investing in a studio backdrop thing that I want, or like different things. And so like for me, it's lately been just baby steps of like, okay, I need to slow my roll and not, because I have huge vision, but I don't sometimes want to take the little steps. So
little steps are critical.
Oh, yep.
I truly believe you can get anywhere you want to go if you are willing to take the little steps and see the path and then take the little steps. But if you just dream, it feels just insurmountable.
Yeah, I'm actually creating photos for this poet right now, and one of the poems he handed to me to create for is literally talking about that. And it's like just talking about your inner man and like making him focus and all about the little steps. And I'm like, okay, I can create this.
Yeah, for a reason.
Yeah. So
what about you?
Yeah.
Connor?
And then it's how do I...
how do you stay motivated?
Yeah,
what inspires you? What inspires you / how do you stay motivated?
Yeah. I I've made it a practice to anytime I see a patch of clovers on the ground, I'm going to look for a 4-leaf clover.
It's kind of, it's not, it just is, I need to expect it every time.
Yeah.
It's like, he's
It's
like,
down
please,
your hands
5
and knees
minutes.
looking around.
I'll give it a time. I'll say,
You'll squat. I don't think you're getting on your hands and knees,
Yeah.
right?
Ball.
You'll squat down.
yeah, I'll squat. So, yeah, sometimes I'm like on the ground.
Okay.
90 seconds. I'm going to find a 4-leaf clover. I've found well over 100 4-leaf clovers.
And everyone thinks
He
they
sends
don't
one to me
exist.
daily. Daily.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like,
Are you into Lucky Charms?
I don't believe in luck.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I meant the cereal, but whatever.
yeah, I'm Irish. Dwyer is my last name. But the reason I do that, and I didn't like one day think I'm going to look at 4-leaf clovers, but like I have to look for inspiration around me. I have to not get caught in the humdrum of everyday life. And we like, this is going to sound super like Peter Pan, but like life is beautiful and it's hard. And there's like, this is so philosophical, but like we have to look for the beauty around us.
Mhm.
And then like in that draw inspiration. Like how can I create from this? And so for me, like, especially when I'm not feeling motivated, I'll put myself in a like go for a walk, or I'll sit down and have a conversation with someone who I wouldn't normally have a conversation with.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'll grab a handful of goldfish and say, all right, what's a photo I can create with these goldfish crackers?
Yeah.
And
no, I love that type of challenge.
yeah,
That's awesome.
And then like that translates into my professional work. You know, if I'm feeling not motivated with this, I don't know, app that I'm designing a logo for, I'll go walk outside and say, okay, I'll create a challenge for myself. How can I capture the sunset today in a way that's not just a sunset picture, but maybe I use my shadow.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna take a picture of my shadow, and that is gonna tell the story of the sunset or whatever that may be. So for me, it's kind of forcing myself to be creative or inspired by putting myself in situations that I'm not currently in.
I have a friend that always says, when you're not feeling motivated, go motivate 3 other people. And so
Ooh, I like
I do that.
Who
like,
is that friend? I'm just joking. No, I'm sorry.
but
Bring 'em in.
it's really helpful. Like I'm like, okay. Or my brother will text me and he's like, name 4 things you're grateful for today. And I'm like, oh gosh, like, and just like to force your mind to think of those things. And I think that's actually very motivating to me, because I'm like, I believe in your dreams, and your dreams. I'm going to tell you about them, and I'm going to push you back into like creating and being inspired in it. And then I'm like ready. I'm like ready to roll on new ideas and whatever. And so I think it's also a big thing that I think has been helpful.
It's cool. It's back to that community idea. People in your life that speak into different times and know you. Cool. Well, we got to wrap. How can people find you? Where are you on Instagram? What is your handle? And tell us just where can people find you?
On Instagram, I am at Thad the Finger. I'm just joking. I'm Connor
We got to
TD.
start that.
Yeah. Connor TD, CONNORTD. And that's my main outlet. ConnorDwyer.com is my website that I need to update. So
Well, you get on that.
I need to post my website. Mine's Rachel F. Long or Flong. Some people call me the Flong. You can decide. I just advertise myself as that.
Yeah, cool. Well, hey, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, sorry. It's really hard to shake hands and stay on the mic. But anyway, this has been awesome. I wish you guys all the best success. I know you're already in Nashville and you're moving soon and all that. So maybe sometime when Rhino's, I know Molly's come down. So
Yes.
anyway,
Come hang.
yeah, I'm really excited. It's been an awesome combo. Thank you.
Awesome.